Welcome back to Transportation. Today we're going to be taking a look at this 2023 Volkswagen Jetta 1.5T SE. It's one of Volkswagen's best-selling compact sedans, and it's actually one of the best-selling German cars in the United States, period. But let's figure out if this is going to be your next compact sports sedan that you'll be driving around. The Volkswagen Jetta has a very striking exterior design. The 7th generation Jetta was originally introduced back in 2019, and since it's got a minor little facelift. And let's take a look and see what they did here. I really like the giant sensor combined with the badge on the front. I really like this new Volkswagen logo. It's like thinner and more modern, and it looks great on this revised front bumper. I really like the way they did the chrome strip here across, and I also really like the way they have the lower grille that kind of ties in with like the thin, long design, and I think they did a fantastic job with it. There's not too much chrome on this. There's just enough to make it look nice. And of course, this car is finished in the Titan Silver exterior color. It looks pretty nice, and I'm a big fan of it. What I'm also a big fan of is the 17-inch Trenton-style wheels. On the previous pre-facelift model, these Trenton-style wheels were only available with the R line, but now they have been moved up to the SE. From what I've seen, has been a fan favorite. One thing I really like about the exterior is how the Volkswagen badge is integrated into the little B-pillar window. I think that's a really, really neat and kind of cool little feature. Working our way back on the car, you can see that we got lots of sleek lines to make the car look a little more interesting. That was one thing that they did over the Mark 6 Jetta. They kind of made a bunch of these really cool lines, like this one. It goes all the way to the back window here, and there's another one. I really like the creases. They're very tastefully done, and this one wraps all the way around the back of the car, all the way to the other side, making it look very whole and complete. And then lastly, on the bottom, I really like this line that opens up here, and it tapers down nicely and neatly at the back. Volkswagen never makes their cars look too crazy, but this one looks just interesting enough to make it competitive in the segment against vehicles like the Toyota Corolla, the Honda Civic, Hyundai Elantra, what have you. On the back side of the Jetta, we have this really nice rear spoiler. Again, those lines continue to wrap around the back. This is one of my favorite angles of the Mark 7 Jetta. You can see we got these awesome LED taillights and turn signals here. It's a combination brake light and turn signal now, and you of course have that LED third rear brake light, which has been standard for years and years on the Jetta, but I really like how this back end looks. It's one of my favorite parts of the Mark 7. And of course, you get those LED taillights even on the base S model. Every single Jetta comes with those LED taillights. Down here, we have some little plastic bits, which they look fine, but I do wish there was some like real like vents and stuff. They obviously did their best to obscure the exhaust on this model, as it's kind of hidden away down underneath the vehicle, but not many people are going to care about that exhaust because it's a very cleaned up, very nice looking rear end. I especially like the font that they use on the facelift version as well, and of course it's got that nice little SE badge over there, harking back to the way they did the badging on the Mark 6 generation. I think that's a nice little throwback there for Volkswagen enthusiasts, but let's go ahead and take a look at that interior. The Volkswagen Jetta also has keyless entry, which means you can just hit this little button when the key is near the vehicle, and then you can open the door to get inside of your 2023 Volkswagen Jetta. Now, the interior of the Volkswagen Jetta is really well done. Obviously, this has been roughly the same since about 2019 or so, but it is one of the best laid out interiors of its class, and I'll show you why. First, the door panel has this kind of nice soft touch element. It really does feel a lot nicer than other vehicles in its class, and I really like the door handles. Everything has a super high quality feel to it, and it feels very much like a higher end vehicle like the Audi, which is obviously related to the Volkswagen. Down here, I really like the grab handle. It feels nice and firm, and it feels extremely well screwed together. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. I like this little soft touch element right here. It's kind of a nice little touch. And of course, we have more leatherette trim down here with the armrest. It's a nice place to put your arm, and you can easily reach the steering wheel from here. There's also your mirror adjustments here, your one-touch window switches, which work great, the one-touch up and down for all windows, and there's even your back seat window lock there as well. Making our way toward the right side, we have automatic headlights right here. which are fantastic, as well as LED daytime running lights. The turn signals are halogen, but that's not really that big of a deal because you want to be seeing that nice LED daytime running light profile. You do get nicer LED daytime running lights if you upgrade to the SEL, but for this trim, for $26,740, you're getting a terrific value for this car, especially given that you have a massive digital driver's display right here. This isn't the full 12.3 inches, but it is nice that they give you a digital display on the lower trims. So what's going on here is it's a little bit smaller than the actual opening. There's like these little non-digital parts off to the side that show you your coolant temperature and your fuel level. And you can change the view by hitting it a few times, and it shows you a bunch of different views. So you can show it with a fully digital view, it'll show you a miles per hour gauge, and it'll also show you a tach gauge, but you can't do the miles per hour and the tachometer side by side at the same time like you were able to on the old one. That is a minor inconvenience, but honestly, for the person that's going to be buying this car, ultimately, it looks really cool and it's kind of worth it to a lot of buyers. If you do want that full-fledged screen, again, the SEL is going to be that one to get you there. Now, that is controlled with this lovely, lovely steering wheel. Now, on a lot of newer Volkswagens, they're doing this thing where they're putting everything like into a touch display on the steering wheel. This steering wheel has that new look, but it has physical buttons, and I think that that's fantastic. It's got your cruise control buttons over here on the side. You can enable and disable your adaptive cruise control, which is a feature on this SE. And of course, you have your volume control here. You can adjust the radio, and it'll even show you your audio controls right up here, which is awesome. The digital mode of this gauge cluster is fully customizable. If you hit these little left and right buttons, you can go up and down, and you can display exactly what you want, including your fuel economy. You can display what kind of audio you're playing. For example, if you've got FM going, you can see exactly what audio you're displaying, which is nice given that this is the base level gauge cluster. It'll show you how many miles you have till your fill up, and it'll even show you whether or not your lane keeping assist is on, which is also a feature included with IQ Drive. Down here we have some little left and right buttons, which are perfect if you want to skip tracks or change stations. That's one thing Volkswagen has always done well, the back and next buttons. The turn signals have a nice feel to them. You can enable and disable all of your assist systems in the digital screen easily, and I think that that is really well done there. And then of course you have your wiper controls, and yes, it's rain sensing, which I also think is really, really cool. Working our way toward the right, we have the base level 6.5-inch touchscreen. Even though it is a smaller touchscreen for a newer car, it does have that Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, if you want the wireless, you have to upgrade to the SEL to get that full 8-inch touchscreen that is known on Volkswagens. As a matter of fact, this head unit is very similar to that RCD 330 that I installed in my Volkswagen Jetta. If you want to check out that video and know how to put that into a Mark V, Mark VI Volkswagen, feel free to check that out. Anyways, this one has a few more features than that. This one actually has a little home screen. It's very, very responsive, actually. It works fantastic. I love the fact that there are physical buttons and dials off to the side. You can adjust your instrument cluster and panel lighting here. Every function has a physical button on it, and it even has your built-in TPMS setting, shows you your vehicle status. All the buttons are very simple and very easy to use, and that is definitely in contrast with their newer infotainment systems. Here we got a little SD card slot. Down here you have more air vents, and right beneath that you have your physical climate controls. I'm so happy that Volkswagen decided to keep the physical climate controls in the facelift of this Jetta. You can set it from low to high pretty easily. That's obviously the thing that matters the most. You have your full sync mode here as well, your max window defroster. I like how the buttons are like kind of built into the dials as well. You can set your max window defroster, turn that off, it'll restore your settings. Your vent speed is right here. You can turn the system off entirely, and it'll even say off. It's kind of funny, it says OF with like a little F, kind of to use the most of that screen as it can. And then of course you have your max AC button, which I like to call Florida mode, because, you know, let's be honest, you're gonna be blasting your AC there anyway. You have your full-on heated seats. You can obviously set where you want your air to move. You can turn your recirc on and off. It's a very easy system to use. One side note about the climate control, even though you can use the physical buttons located right underneath, you can actually go into the climate menu in the touchscreen and very easily adjust them here. And I still agree that this is still better than what is in the newer Volkswagens. I also really like the interior representation on here as well. I still prefer the controls, but it's nice to be able to see them up here as well. Working our way down, we have 2 USB-C ports, which is brand new. There used to only be USB-A, and that's where you're gonna plug in for Apple CarPlay. Right here, you have your 8-speed automatic transmission shifter. They did change the shifter since the last generation. For like 10 years or so, Volkswagen was using the same shifter in their cars, and now they have kind of facelifted it by including the little numbers on top of the shifter. I think it's a really great look, and I think it's gonna wear a lot better over time as well. I like the shift boot. It's a nice classic look for enthusiasts. Your start, engine, stop buttons right there, electromechanical parking brake. You can even turn the start-stop system off if you want to. You do have to turn it on every time you start the car, which is kind of annoying, but you do even have an eco mode. So this thing really is gonna try and save you that fuel. And then you got a bunch of blank switches over here next to your 12-volt socket if you just want to keep things old school and charge up your phone or whatever you have. Over here we have 2 very well-designed cup holders. They're kind of staggered, which is really nice. And then here you have a little slot either to put your cell phone or to put your key fob. And this is a really nice key fob, by the way. I love how it has remote start. It's nice and thin, and it'll fit in your pocket very easily. But besides that, let's go and look at the center console. This is a really nice cost-cutting thing they did here. They actually got rid of the latch, so you can just open it and close it really easily. It's a really, really smart thing that they did there. But inside the center console, they actually put light walls and floors in here, so it's extremely easy to see what you're looking at. And there's even a hidden USB-C port, so you can charge something and kind of obscure it away from the vehicle. And for the seat cover, the bolsters are incredible. I love these VTEX leatherette seats. They even have a nice little perforation on them, and I really like the headrest. You push these little dots on them to put them up and down, as with other VWs, but these feel really nice, and from my experience with leatherette seats, these are gonna look nice in 10 years as well. On top of the dash, I gotta say, this is some of the nicest soft touch material I've seen in a dashboard, let alone at this price point. It is just the nicest dashboard. I just wanna feel around it all day. And then over here we have this really awesome kind of like silver, I don't know, like a plaid kind of texture. It looks kind of cool. I dig it. Over here we have a glove box. Unfortunately, they are not lockable anymore, but you do get a lot of space. This is more than I've seen in some pickup trucks. So that is pretty impressive. So one thing that's actually really nice about this 2023 Jetta is the fact that the driver's seat is actually powered. It's an 8-way adjustable seat. There are no memory seats, but this thing is really nice to get into position, to get nice and comfortable. The driver's seat is still manual, but let's be honest, people aren't gonna really care about that. But given everything else you're getting for the value, it's fantastic. Up here you have your sun visors. They kept the halogen light from the last generation Jetta, and I know because I have one, and yeah, it works pretty well. It's pretty effortless, it extends. And over here, same thing, very nice. Now, even though this is optional, for $850 on the SE trim level, you can get a sunroof, and you can open it up. This part is manual, which I kind of like, but then this part opens up so you can let all the sun into your vehicle on these lovely, lovely summer days. You have a bunch of dome light controls up here as well. Again, I love the fact that these are halogen, which means they are going to not only last a decent amount of time, but you can pretty easily replace them as well. I love the fact that there's a sunglass holder up here. Not many new cars have that anymore. And then of course you got your telematics up here as well. Over here you have your auto dimming mirror. And yeah, overall this is a great interior for the money. Like, this is one of the best values I have ever seen. The Volkswagen Jetta has so many safety features that I'm actually going to read them off on the window sticker. We have advanced airbag protection system that has 6 airbags, anti-slip regulation, engine brake assist, electronic brake pressure distribution, hydraulic brake assist, obviously electronic stability control, electronic diff lock, intelligent crash response system, automatic post-collision braking system, obviously the latch seating in the back, TPMS sensors, obviously rear view camera, hill hold control, travel assist, adaptive cruise control, lane assist, lane keeping assist, emergency assist, which basically it's a semi-automated vehicle assistance in a medical emergency, front assist, active blind spot monitor, and rear traffic alert. One thing that's weird because of the microchip shortage is that this vehicle is actually not equipped with the blind spot monitoring system, and you can't basically get that for right now, but you are credited for it, which is really nice. You actually save $450 on it, which is pretty cool. So this vehicle has a lot of safety features for the price point. We have the Volkswagen New Vehicle Limited Warranty. It's 4 years / 50,000 miles. And you even have a limited warranty against corrosion perforation, which is 7 years and 100,000 miles. You get scheduled carefree maintenance, 2 years, 20,000 miles, that's completely covered. And you get 24-hour roadside assistance for 3 years or 36,000 miles, whichever comes first. There's a lot of information to pack there, but I really do hope you guys learned something there. Now, the front seat has a lot of amenities. Let's go ahead and check out the back seat and see what your passengers are going to be experiencing. So let's check out the back seat of the 2023 Volkswagen Jetta. Right away, there is a load of legroom. I'm about 5'8", and this seat is in my regular driving position, but I have loads of legroom and a decent amount of headroom as well. I actually feel kind of small back here. There are a few amenities. For example, I like the one-touch up and down windows. The one thing that's a little annoying is the window doesn't go all the way down, but let's be honest, if you've had a Volkswagen Jetta before, that's to be expected. Here we have a really nice center armrest with giant cup holders, and I like the way they did this. There's 3 different sizes of cup holders, so you can find the one that suits you. Now, one thing that is a little annoying is it doesn't have that console pass-through that they used to have. In other words, you could open the center armrest and you could grab a little lever and pull the whole thing down. That is no longer, but again, it's a minor cost-cutting thing given the incredible value that you're getting in this car. Over here is where you would normally expect to see the air vents, but there's none of that back here. However, you do get nice little halogen dome lights, and they're extremely easy to control as well. I like how they made them individual buttons. We also have little grab handles with little hooks to hang stuff on, and we also have pretty decent sized door pockets back here as well. We even have little pockets in the back of the seats, although we don't have it in both seats, just that one, although that was something that was carried over from the last generation. Let's go ahead and check out the middle seat comfort real quick. Even though the 2 outer board seats are extremely comfortable and very well padded, the middle seat does feel like a hump seat. It has a giant transmission tunnel, which means that it's not the most comfortable seat. I would only really recommend it for short trips, but it's got some nice padding to it and it feels relatively comfortable. You even get your own adjustable headrest, which is also really nice, so you can technically get somewhat comfortable. The headrests in general back here are extremely comfortable. They feel very nice. However, these ones do not adjust. They're actually upholstered into the seat, which is very, very interesting. There are some minor cost-cutting measures back here in order to make sure that the rest of the car remains high-tech and safe. But let's go ahead and check it out when we fold these seats down and we get a bunch of space in the trunk. Now, getting into the lift gate of the Jetta is really easy. You can either hit this little button next to the backup camera, or you can hit a little trigger right by the driver's side door. Now, opening up the trunk, it just pops right open. It's much easier than in previous generations, and you actually have quite a bit of space. There is a pretty large hump to lift stuff over, but once you're inside, there is a lot of space back here. You even have this little cargo protection system, which comes with these little Velcro boxes, which are kind of all packaged up like this. You can kind of fold them and you can have them like hold your groceries in place. And as someone who's had that system in my car for over 10 years, I can say that they still work fantastic. It's not just a gimmick, it's actually a cool system. And to fold the seats, you just hit these little levers here and they kind of just release the seats. This is one annoyance that I have with the folding seats. This is the only way to fold them. Obviously, for security reasons, you don't want the lever inside of the car, so people can't just break in the back window and just fold the seat down and steal whatever you have in here, but it does create that inconvenience of having to kind of reach inside and push the seat down like this. You kind of have to have a good reach with it, and then you have to kind of finish the folding once you're back inside of the car. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. So once you have the rear seats folded, which requires obviously going into the trunk and opening the back doors, you do have quite a wealth of space back here. You could put enough suitcases for probably like a 2-day trip or something like that. And honestly, that's about all you're going to be carrying in a compact sedan. But let's go ahead and look under the hood of this 2023 Volkswagen Jetta. Under the hood, we're looking at a turbocharged 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine making 158 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and a whole 184 pound-feet of torque at 1,750 RPM. Now, I've driven the older 1.4 liter turbo that this one replaced, and I can say that that low-end torque actually makes this faster than its predecessor, which featured significantly more horsepower than this. So horsepower is not the only thing that's going to matter in this Jetta. And this 1.5 liter turbo is actually paired with the 8-speed automatic transmission for those super smooth and quick shifts. To turn on the Volkswagen Jetta, just put your foot on the brake, make sure the key's inside the vehicle, and hit the start engine stop button to turn it on. All right, let's drive this 2023 Volkswagen Jetta. Let's see how this thing drives out on the road, how it accelerates, how it brakes, how responsive it feels, and most importantly, how does it feel to steer and how does it handle? Steering is definitely a lot lighter than previous generation Jettas right off the bat. The steering, it's a little bit slow in this car, but it's nice and light, and it's very, very easy to drive. Feels like you're driving a like $50,000 Audi. And I reviewed that Q7 here yesterday actually, and I feel that the steering is very reminiscent of that as well. And I really like the interior amenities in here. Being out on the road, they become especially helpful here. Love having the air vents right here. I also really like how the display is like right off to the side, and I can only imagine it's even better with the 8-inch touchscreen. It's just nice being able to see like your Apple CarPlay right here, and you barely have to look away from the road to see it. It's kind of right in your peripheral vision, which is super nice. I also really like the digital gauges, although again, I really do wish you had a little bit of both going on in here. But it can pretty easily get to 50 because of that low-end torque. Even though it doesn't have a ton of power, this thing gets something like 40 miles to the gallon on the highway. Again, it's a little confusing to navigate the display when you're new to it, and having only the digital readout is kind of confusing. I really wish that there was a way you could have the tachometer and the speedometer off to the side, because it's nice to be able to see that go up and down. Once you get on the road, the steering, it kind of feels a little bit of adaptive. The steering almost tightens up a little bit once you really start to get it out there. I love how the volume buttons and the back and forth buttons are sharing the same space on each side of the steering wheel. Like I said before, I drove the pre-facelift version of the Mark 7, and this drives almost the same. They didn't really change any of the driving dynamics. The 1.5 feels roughly the same as the 1.4 did, although I do miss having the physical gauges with the little MFD in the middle. I think that was the best integration of the system. But as we're cruising down this little side road here, you can really get comfortable in the seat and notice that there are a lot of really nice bolstering on the seat, so you can really rest your tricep. Like I always say, you can rest your tricep on the seat bolster and you can really get comfortable in here. Throttle response is pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and speed up. Once you floor it, it's kind of like the softer, it gets softer, and then once you push down a little bit more, it gets a little bit harder. This thing has an extremely smooth ride. We don't have the smoothest roads out here, and I gotta say, this thing drives so comfortably. It drives as nice as it did when I drove back on the East Coast on some of the smoothest roads I'd ever driven on. Again, I really like having the lane keeping assist. You can actually turn that on and off here. So if I turn that on, it has a little lane indication. We're slowing down to 35. This would be a good chance to test out the brakes. No one behind me there, perfect. And the reason why they're bringing us down to 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is because we are about to get on a highway. Again, the turn signals feel really nice. They have a nice dampening to them. We're gonna make a really hard right turn here, really test out that turning steering feel of this car. We're gonna go ahead and floor it to go to 75. Close to redlining, but not quite. Still, it just hit 60, 65. Got to get up to that 75. And there we go. We have just hit 75. It's nice. You're not going to be doing really any speeding in this car, but it gets you to the speed limit. I mean, it does the trick. It does it really smoothly too, because of that 8-speed automatic. The pedal does have kind of a numb feel to it, in my opinion, especially since it's a top-mounted pedal. They did away with the floor-mounted pedal in the older generation, but driving down a fast highway, this thing actually has great road manners. I do kind of wish they gave you paddle shifters. Not that you really need them in a Tiptronic, because it does have a Tiptronic, but we also have a sport mode. If you put the shifter down, you can actually put it in a sport mode. I almost said shift mode, but you can also put it into sport mode, and you can actually time the shifts a little bit better. So if you look at the tachometer, it'll actually adjust it for you. Then to put it back into drive, you just push it down again. And then of course you can put it off to the side if you want to do Tiptronic. It's in 8th gear right now, which is super duper cool. And not that really anybody's going to be using the manual shift mode, but I think it's super neat. It even holds the gear a little bit longer just in case you want to make another pass. Again, driving on a fairly quiet highway right now, this thing would be a great road tripping car. The AC stays nice and cold. Again, I do wish we had ventilated seats on the Jetta, but if you want ventilated seats, you have to like get a fully spec'd out like Tiguan to get that. Again, that's kind of a minor thing because ventilated seats are still, at this point, a very luxury car feature. Hopefully they'll become standard equipment in the future, but we'll have to see on that. We're gonna test the braking here as we get on this off-ramp here. Hard on the brakes. Yeah, this thing has extremely responsive brakes. So there's a bit of numbness with the pedal, but there's no numbness with the brakes at all. Again, we're gonna floor it a little bit here. It's extremely responsive. Now we're at 40 miles an hour. We can also turn off the automatic start-stop manually if we want as well, if we feel a little bit of hesitation when the climate control isn't on. By the way, if you have climate control on, it will cancel out the automatic start-stop. And yeah, the 6.5-inch screen, it works fantastic. It's really nice to use while you're driving because it's got those physical knobs and buttons, and that's really the theme with this car. Volkswagen facelifted this car in a time when the Volkswagen Golf has those taptic controls, which nobody likes from what I've heard, and they're very hard to use while driving. So Volkswagen almost knows that this Volkswagen Jetta is going to be the staple in the lineup. It is one of their most successful cars that they make and that they sell, and it's one of their best driving cars as well. One thing I gotta mention as well is that this Volkswagen Jetta is also extremely quiet. It's a lot quieter than previous generations, and you can tell that they really ironed out like the smooth ride. They actually went back to torsion beam suspension after temporarily returning to multi-link suspension, but honestly, I can't even tell that the suspension is rough. It's because it's not. It's really smooth and it's quiet and it's nice to drive. And as we head back to our filming location, we will come to a final verdict on this 2023 Volkswagen Jetta 1.5 Turbo SE. The 2023 Volkswagen Jetta really is a super fun car. Not only is it somewhat quick, but it's also extremely fuel efficient as well. Not to mention, at $27,000, you're getting this decently equipped mid-range SE trim level. So I highly, highly recommend the all-new 2023 Volkswagen Jetta, compared with its physical buttons, top-notch safety and technology, as well as super high-quality finishes in the front of the vehicle. I highly recommend the 2023 Volkswagen Jetta as your next compact sports sedan against the competition. This has been another Transportation video. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you guys drive safe. I'll see you guys in the next one.